Welcome back, everybody, to episode 74 of the Wedding Photo Podcast. I am your host, Ulysses Del Toro. Thank you for joining me again. If you would like to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at Wedding Photo Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at DelToroPhoto. And you can also join our ever-growing Facebook group. All the links are in the show notes below, so go check those out. I just want to start off with a quick reminder that I have linked up with Publisher by Narrative. If you don't know what Publisher by Narrative is, it is a desktop app used to create beautiful blogs more efficiently, quicker. I was not keeping up with my blog posts for the longest time just because it took me a really long time to put them together. And then when I came across Publisher and saw what I could do with them, I was putting together blogs really fast. In fact, recently I haven't been posting blogs, but these last 2 weeks I've been putting together a ton of blogs so that I can just start releasing them as I please. And it's just a really easy app to use. It's really it makes everything look really nice, and you should definitely go check it out. You can try it for free, so go check them out. If you decide you want to purchase it, you can save 15% off using code DelToroPhoto. The affiliate link is linked below in the show notes as well. So just wanted to throw all of that out there. Thank you for listening again. If you want to support this podcast, all I ask is that you leave a 5-star rating. You leave a review. It helps the podcast become more discoverable, and just tell some friends about it. That would be awesome. I don't have any real updates today. I mean, we're just kind of rolling along. I've been working, and nothing crazy. We don't have any weddings going on right now. In fact, we don't really even have a whole lot of shoots. Just a couple family shoots coming up. Nothing huge. So there's no big updates. So I'll just get right into the episode. Today we have my really good friend Eric McFarland. We're always texting each other, always trying to figure out when the next time we can sit down and record a podcast episode. I think that's like one of our favorite ways to even hang out now. We're always talking about like, hey, when can we get together? Do you want to record? And then we try to pick some really good food to eat and something really good to drink. We like trying new foods. We like trying hot foods. And we always try to find some beers that we haven't tried, and we share those, and we have a good time. So that's what we did this time. We sat down. We had some Hate Burger. I introduced him to Hate Burger here in Redlands. They have a really good chicken sandwich. And we had some beers, and we talked about some really funny stories about how he accidentally took a couple to a nude beach. He talks about a little experience he had with a not so good experience he had with a wedding planner. And the big one, he talks about his switching back to Canon. And if you've heard him on the previous episodes, you'll kind of get to know his history on that whole thing. He started as a Nikon photographer. He switched to Canon in previous episodes. He's talked about that. And then about a year or two ago, he made his switch over to Sony, and now he's switching back to Canon. And whenever he's switching, he does a lot of intensive research. When he gets the cameras that when he switches over, he does a lot of research there, and he's always texting me like his little tests that he does in low light and with his flashes and the lenses he gets. And he really knows his gear really well, and he really uses it to the extent that you can. So he's a really good go-to person to talk about those kinds of things. So he came on the podcast. We talked about all that. We had a really good time. So without any further ado, I present to you Eric McFarland. Man, we have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
You have not been on the podcast for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so much so that we keep having texts like, Oh, that's good for the podcast. We should bring that up on the podcast.
Write it down.
And you actually keep asking me, like, when are we going to do a podcast episode? When COVID-19 has ended.
So then...
I got tested. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I actually got tested so that we could record this episode.
Nice.
You got my memo, right? You got tested too?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Okay, cool. So, yeah. How's everything going?
It's been okay. It's been better. Lots of like cancellations and postponements and things like that.
Yeah, what's the business looking like on your end during all this during the pandemic?
Yeah, so we've had I think as of today, we got an email today. I think 21 weddings have been postponed or canceled.
Wow.
Thankfully, a majority of them have been pushed to next year. So we're still able to get that income next year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those are dates that aren't available for potentially new clients.
Yeah.
So kind of a bummer in that aspect, but still like good that we're not totally losing them.
Did you have anybody that, only because this is what happened to me, but did you have anybody pay in full and then still have to postpone for next year? So
yeah, so we had one that paid in full. Like they booked us, gave the deposit, and then like a few days later gave the rest of the money. And this is like last year, I think.
Yeah.
And
they're moving it to next year.
Yeah. So their actual date was in May, I think, and they pushed it to like 3 weeks ago, and I had the date available, and I was like, oh, thank you. I don't have to deal with like having to give you money back or deal with that whole like headache of cancellations.
Have you had to deal with any of that?
Not really. People have been just kind of like cool with like transferring their dates over, and I'm cool with like transferring their deposits over and just putting everything to a new date without any issues or anything. And there has been some where haven't been available on their date, but all of those so far have been ones that we've already shot engagement sessions. So I'm like, I don't want to deal with the headache of this. Like, you had your session, my deposit is pretty much the price of a session for the most part, so we'll just call it like we're even, we're good, and they're cool with that. Oh, that's good. So I haven't had anything crazy yet. Nothing them badgering you about getting money back or anything. Getting money back or like any nasty emails or anything like that. Not yet. Yeah, that's good, man. But it's still young. That's like the biggest worry, don't you think? Like for me, like getting just someone saying something bad about your business, even though you didn't necessarily do anything wrong, or like the pandemic's not even your fault. That's such a scary thing to. You don't want to go through all that. Yeah, not at all. Yeah, we're people pleasers. The last thing we want to do is have somebody be upset at us. For something we didn't do. That's cool, man. So everyone's pushing till next year, which I'm sure makes it tough because you can't book all those new weddings for next year. But you said all the dates were pretty much available for next year? Yeah, for the most part. There's some of them that have said, like, we're planning for next year. We're just not sure what date yet. And so I'm always like, hey, well, let me know if you're deciding between a couple of dates. Let me know all of them, just so we can be on the same page with like what dates I'm available and what dates we're not, because we still want to work with you, obviously. But if you're going for like a date in June or April, where I know we're already like pretty booked for next year now, like it might not be as easy as like January or July or something like in the summertime or whatever. Yeah. So. And have you been shooting weddings as of recently? Yeah, here and there. We've shot a couple that have been like one had us booked for 12 hours and now it's down to 3. And there's been one 8-hour wedding that was like a full day, but it was like the bride and the groom, their bridal party, and family, and that was like literally it, like 25 people or so. But we still like they had us booked for 8 hours, and it was still like the normal price. Like they did almost everything you would normally do at a wedding. Without like dancing and bouquet and garter, but everything else. But what about like the 3-hour one? Does that change like money wise? Does that? So thankfully, so those ones have been also where we've shot engagement sessions. So I'm like, so let's just count your deposit as that session. We're good on that, and you can rebook us essentially for the 3 hours, and we'll give you a new price. Oh, okay. So they hadn't paid the full. Yeah, nothing extra. Okay, so that worked out too. Yeah, that's good. I like that. So yeah. So, yeah,
I feel like, I ask because, I mean, those are the things I want to know about, because those are all like little situations you don't really expect to kind of be in and stuff. So I think you handle it really well.
Yeah, dude. So you had a client pay in full and then had to change their date?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Oh, well, I just didn't touch their money.
There you go.
Yeah, that was actually when COVID hit. So COVID hit, and like the weekend, it was, so I'm pretty sure it was like the beginning of March. All this COVID stuff started happening, and like it reached us, right? And then that weekend, when things kind of started like really stirring up, they hadn't closed anything yet, and we went to this wedding. But like, this is where like we showed up with hand sanitizers and wipes and everything. Like it was already to the point of like, hey, we don't know what this thing is, but everyone. Oh, I remember when it first started, like there was still a lot of confusion to like what was going on. But I remember like, because we were still at work and they hadn't sent us home, and everyone was already washing their hands like every 5 seconds. And it was like, it was so extra. Like it literally, like I remember at my office, like someone would come over and talk to you, and then they'd be like, okay, bye. And then you like spray the air, you go to the bathroom, you wash your hands, you come back, you put some hand sanitizer on, and then 5 minutes later, someone else comes to your cubicle and it's like the same thing. Like, dude, what are we doing here? So I know that all that was going on. And so we went to this wedding, and we just got by. And I think the next weekend they shut everything down. And the day before that wedding that we shot, the following weekend we were supposed to have another wedding, and that couple, they had paid in full. And then we went and shot this wedding, and then no, sorry, it was that weekend. On Thursday they paid in full for the following week, and then on Friday they called us and said they're postponing their wedding. So they paid in full, and the next day I got on a phone call. She called me, the bride called me, and she told me, we're postponing our wedding. We don't know exactly when. We don't have any dates figured out, but we definitely want to use you guys still. We want to stay with you guys. So we're like, okay, cool. That sounds really good. Just let us know what's going on. And then the following day we went and shot the wedding I just talked about, right? So they paid us in full, and I literally just put that money to the side. I didn't want to touch it because I didn't know what was going to happen. This was the first time something like that was going on, and then they hit us back up like a couple weeks later, and then they were talking about a possible July date. So we put a couple July dates, tentative dates for everything, now that everything got more serious, and I think a lot of people at the time were hopeful things were kind of gonna turn around by July. I think I remember like a lot of talk about July. Things are gonna kind of get back to normal. Now that we're past July, we're like, oh, that did not work out. But nonetheless, we just we decided to put that aside, because from day one there was all these changes, all these cancellations. We were hearing of all these photographers, all these issues they were having. The last thing we wanted to do is deal with anything like that. And if anybody gave us money, we were kind of prepared to just give it right back to them and just like, not worry about the headache. And we're in a situation where I have that day job that really acts as a buffer. I'm able to do that thing. I can understand for other photographers who like you, who don't like may have to fight for some of that extra cash. But yeah, they called us back and they booked for next year. They set a date and they want to stay with us, and they ended up getting married. They got married at their house. They had like a little ceremony, and that also freaked me out. Like, oh, they're definitely gonna want their money back now. Dude. But they want to have their dream wedding, so they booked it for next year. I think we're okay.
Nice. Yeah, I just did a session on Saturday. It was actually their actual wedding date, and they pushed it to, I think, the same date, just next year. And they just went to the courthouse and got married. And I met them for like a portrait session essentially on their wedding day.
That's cool. Yeah, but they're still gonna have a wedding next year. They still want to do the whole shebang. Shebang. That's cool, man. Yeah, it's weird times, right? Like, it's like you don't know exactly what to expect or what's kind of going to happen with everything. But
it's definitely a bad time to be a wedding photographer, but at the same time, it's a bad time to be a lot of things.
Yeah,
So
I can agree
it's
with
not
that
just
statement.
us.
I can agree with that. You had a you had an interaction with a wedding vendor recently.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And I wanted to talk about this. Tell me about this. You sent me a screenshot of an email you got, right? Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, trying to like backtrack a little to give like a good representation of like as a wedding coordinator. And she actually, like the beginning of it all, she called me and booked us based off a referral from the videographer who I've worked with a few times in the past.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I think the couple knew the videographer, and the videographer told the coordinator about me. So that's how she booked me, I guess, for the couple. And on the wedding day, she was like, well, this I always get kind of like, maybe it's like pretentious of me, but I get annoyed when a coordinator gives me a schedule, and on the schedule has like times that I'm supposed to be taking photos, like this from 2:30 to 3. You're supposed to take photos of the reception or of the decor of the reception, things like that. I'm like, okay, well,
that annoys you?
Yeah. I mean, I'll shoot it when I have the time. I'm like, I don't need to be micromanaged.
Dude, I love that you're saying this. Actually, like I'm so like. I'm so particular about the wedding day. I create those schedules for us. And so when like a coordinator puts that down, I'm like, perfect. I don't have to think about it. And you're like, I hate when they tell me what to do.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
okay.
maybe it is like, maybe I'm a jerk. I don't know. But like, I mean, like we don't need like a schedule to tell us like when to do things. Like we've never had an issue where like, oh no, we don't have enough time to get the centerpieces of the tables. Like there's two of us, like, there's been numerous times where or Ashley's driven herself to go to the reception and take photos while I stay back and do photos of the couple and stuff. So anyways, things like that, that schedule. And then like on the day, she texted me multiple times. Like I took the bride and the groom out and she's like, hey, they need to be back in like 3 minutes. So just so you know, like, okay, well, that's fine. But like that, like multiple times. And then
you're like, leave me alone.
Yeah, like kept texting me and like on my case about stuff. Like, can I just do my job? Like everything's gonna be fine. So that whole like, she just really like honestly like micromanaged us the entire day, which like, I think that's just some people's personality, and that's like they have to feel like everything's going well, which that wedding was a little bit unorganized and things weren't going well, so I think she was stressed. So anyways, then gave the clients the photos. I posted one to Instagram as like a sneak peek, then gave the clients the entire album. Then the client posted their photos, like maybe 2 or 3, like the bride posted one and the groom posted one. And apparently the coordinator in her contract had written out that she has access to all of the photos. So there's that. And she emailed me and said, hey, could I get the photos? Okay, well, let me like backtrack a little bit on the email. She was really like nice in the first part of the email. Said, hey, just want to know if you can get the photos. Like we worked hard, yada yada yada. Like that's awesome, you did. Everything looks great. And then that
is that it?
The end of the email, it said, I have your phone now. Also agreed that I can have full access to all their photos when they signed my contract. And so I'm like, okay, hold up. Like these are photos that Ashley and I took for the client, not for you.
Yeah.
So that's great that you can write it in your contract, but like they're technically my photos.
Yeah.
That
I don't know if you saw my contract.
Yeah.
My contract says I own all the photos.
Yeah. So like, I just felt it was, I don't know.
She was being forward. She was being like, very like, these also belong to me.
Yeah. So like, I'm always about like giving photos to vendors. Like I could care less if they have the photos and they do whatever they want them, because honestly, like usually, like I'd say 9 times out of 10 they'll credit me and we'll get more work from it, so I'm all for it. But when they like feel entitled that like those are my photos, I'm like, no, but I took them though, and I edited
she was
them.
trying to tell you what to do.
Like,
screw this coordinator. I'm just kidding.
So there's that email, so that initial email, and I figured, okay, that's fine. Like if you have a contract, that's between you and the bride and the groom, like not between me. So you can email the bride, she'll give you the photos, that's totally fine. I ignored that email. Then she emailed me again. She emailed me again and emailed in the same email, had the bride and the groom also. And said, just so you guys know, like you signed this contract and sent pictures of their signature and all the contract.
Oh my gosh.
And said, I don't want to escalate things prematurely, but you guys need to get the photos over to me. And I was like, no, honestly, I wrote her back. I'm not sure if I was that nice about it. But I was like,
is it the one that you showed me?
God, yeah. Ashley, yeah.
Do you want, I don't have to go verbatim here if you don't want, but you did send it to me.
Yeah, I forget what I said entirely, but it probably wasn't the nicest thing. I think I'd probably burned a bridge, but honestly, like,
no, I think you handled it really well, man. I think the rebuttal was like pretty. It was the best way you could handle it too, and give a tiny little, foot trip.
Yeah. So I pretty much said that we never signed a contract with the coordinator, so we're not contractually obligated to give her the photos. It's between me and the client, obviously. So like the clients gave you the photos, that's totally fine. I don't really care about that. And also the clients had told the coordinator that they'll give her the photos once they're able to share it with family and friends and things like that. They don't want to give it to her and she was going to give it to the rest of the vendors. Yeah. So they can post. And said the client said that she didn't want other people to see the photos until they had shared with their family and friends. Yeah. So I was like, yes, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with my client and agree with her and saying that she can give them to you as soon or as late as she wants to. Yeah. There's no date on her contract when she would get them back. Yeah. So I'm gonna honor my client.
With that being said, she should wait a whole year to give her the photo.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, the clients will give them to you when they're able to. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to give them to you, but the clients will. So that's between you guys because your contract, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Yeah. And I said, also, I'd recommend not to approach matters like this in the way that you did so that you can increase your business and get referrals from clients and vendors. I'm not sure if I should have said that.
But I mean, she's never hiring you again.
Yeah, which I'm fine with.
That's okay.
Like, there's a lot of vendors. There's a lot of like people that can refer us or us to refer them. Yeah. And honestly, if I could like create each wedding with like vendors that I've worked with, that I know I get along with, if I can like recommend people, like I'm all about that. And,
I think that was a nice way of like, it's something you would tell a friend, right? Like, hey man, you're kind of a dick sometimes, you know, like you would tell a friend that, but you wouldn't just tell any random person because that's rude. Yeah. But I think you said it in a way where it's like, you know, vendor to vendor, that's not the best way to handle that if you want, this to be resolved.
Yeah. Correctly. It was just that she said, I don't want to escalate things prematurely. I'm like, dude, what are you going to take them to court for some photos that aren't even yours? Yeah.
For a contract you and I never signed, like it would go nowhere.
Yeah. So what I think, I'd imagine that how she was with Ashley and I on the wedding day, like really like micromanaging and like not letting us do our thing. I'd imagine that she does that at every wedding. And there have been times where she didn't receive photos because she's a not nice.
Whoa, Eric.
So she had to write it into her contract so that she would get photos from people.
Hilarious, man.
I mean, I can't prove that, but I'd imagine that's why.
And nobody has told her yet that you can't. Yeah. That you can't do that
until I did that. And now I'm the jerk. So
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
That's good. Well, like there's venues that have that too, right? Yeah. And you sign. I've seen contracts where it's like, we own your photos after the fact. Like, you don't. Yeah. No, we could change this, or we could just not sign this, and we're cool. Yeah. Because I've had there was one venue that said that in the contract, but it was earlier on, and I just signed it, and they never asked me for photos, so there's that. You know what I mean? Like they just kind of like forgot about us, so that's cool.
Yeah, and which I mean, I'd say like every single time I shoot at a new venue or anything like that, I'll say, hey, do you guys want the photos? Because I want them to have them so they can post to their Instagram and tag us and hopefully get us new work. So I think a lot of our referrals are based off of venues, like specifically venues posting our work and tagging us. Yeah. And brides who are getting married there, finding us and inquiring from there. Yeah. So I am 100% for giving all the photos to vendors, just not if they're going to be jerks about it.
And would you agree? Like, I feel like maybe I'm just naive, but I feel like most of the weddings we go to now, like the venues, most of the people are like really cool now. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like most people have learned like how not to handle situations and stuff. And most of the situations we're in, they're really cool. Like, I just went and shot for you. and the coordinators, they were really nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I approached them, they were cool with everything. They asked me if I needed anything, and I feel like that's the situation I see more often than not. You know, every once in a while you'll run into one of the coordinators you're talking about right now.
Dude.
Don't worry, I'll bleep out names. You're all, oh crap, yeah, them. Yeah, but that's unfortunate. That I mean, I feel like that's got to be just some old school mentality, right, on her end, to think that she's entitled to those photos.
Yeah, dude, and it was a bummer for me. Like I was kind of like bummed out the rest of the day because I mean, felt like I burned a bridge, and like I've never had anything like that happen ever.
Yeah,
with photography and
Did you feel dirty for sending that message?
No, I was just like, I don't know. I don't think that me sending it helped anything. I think she's still like thinking that I'm the jerk and she can act how she wants.
Yeah.
But I don't know. She'll post on the post images of the wedding. She still tags us.
Oh, so she
doesn't
did get
totally
the
hate us.
She did get the photos.
Eventually at some point. I'm not sure when, but yeah.
And she tags you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, well,
maybe you spoke through to her.
Maybe. I don't know.
Dang. We got to find out who has shot for her recently and and see what their experience was with her. Dude, that's hilarious. Okay, I got another one. Dude, you text me and you're like, have you shot, what did you say? Have you shot at Torrey Pine? That's what you said first, right? Have you shot at Torrey Pine in San Diego? Which I have. We did a wedding down there, and we did like the after ceremony, you know, the portrait photos on Torrey Pine State Beach, which is really cool. I haven't really explored Torrey Pine, but basically Torrey Pine is a beach next to a cliff, and on top of the cliff is like a forest. Yeah. So you could like go into the forest and then end up on the beach, and you know, like, so I haven't actually explored it, but we took photos on the beach in a specific area. So I've been down there, and I've also researched beaches in San Diego, so I knew exactly what you were talking about. But you said, have you been? What did you tell me? Have you been?
So I planned this out because I don't want to like give anything away as I was texting you. I said, have you ever shot at Torrey Pine State Beach before? Yeah. And I was waiting for a response. And then, have you shot at Black's Beach before, which is in Torrey Pines?
I started cracking up when you said Black's Beach, because I already, you know what? You know how I found out about Black's Beach is it was just like a news article. Like I saw it in the news article one time, and I was like, what? For all of you that don't know, Black Beach in San Diego is a nudist beach. Yep. You can be completely nude. And Eric found that out the hard way.
So I'm gonna blame this and 100% on COVID.
Okay.
Because so Torrey Pines, it's huge. It's like a really big like stretch of beach. There's 2 parking lots. You can drive up to like the forest area. There's a parking lot up there. Yeah. And then if you drive past that, like if you drive around like the forest area, there's another side you can park at also. So it's huge. It's a really big beach. We planned to meet at the first parking lot that you first drive up to, and that parking lot was closed because the beaches were closed, or the parking lots were closed for the beaches because of COVID. So if COVID wasn't happening, we could have parked there. None of this would have happened. But I've shot up there at up top at Torrey Pines. There's like it's called the Glider Port, where people can like do parasailing or I think it's parasailing. Well, or you're attached to a boat. Anyways, you're floating from a thing. And so I've been up there before for shoots, just up there, like little like smaller like family shoots. Never went down to the beach or anything, but I knew there was a path that went down to the beach. And so when I saw the parking lot was closed, I was like, oh no, we can go to the Glider Port area. The parking there is super easy. It's just huge, free parking. You park there. And we can shoot up some up there, and then we'll go down that path to the beach and do some on the water because they wanted some of the water.
But you'd never gone down there.
Never. Okay. It was it's probably like a 10 to 15 minute walk down the path, and not the easiest thing.
Very secluded, yes.
Yeah. So I kind of like go down there and check it out, and then come back up. Be like, okay, this is good. I was kind of like rolling the dice, like I see there's people down there, and there's water and the big cliffs. It seems like it'd be a cool spot. Yeah. So we do the pictures up by the Glider Port area. There's overlooking the cliffs, and then we start walking down, and like 15 minutes later we get to like the bottom of the hill, and then there's like a lot of people there. I'm like, oh, that old guy is no. And there's a bunch of like old dudes naked
At first you thought there was like maybe one crazy person there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, there's a ton of people.
Yeah. So it is definitely it's a nude beach, but I would say 98% of the people were fully clothed.
Yeah.
Except for a select few
Yeah.
who were not
Yeah.
clothed at all.
I read when I read it, it wasn't an exclusively nude beach. It's
Yeah.
just you're allowed to be nude down there if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the couple was cool about it. They were like,
Yeah.
we were all laughing about
Did
it
you
and
have
stuff.
to Photoshop
No,
anybody
thankfully
or
the beach.
anything out?
There actually was the blurriness, the depth of field. I didn't realize as I was shooting, but I remember like, oh, I think that person was naked. I think that's that person right there. But it was like a blurry blob, so you couldn't see anything. The whole
First time
the
you
whole
really
body.
were happy you had aperture 1.4 on your camera.
Yeah, so everything actually on the beach, I was able to position them and angle them to where there was nobody behind our
What did
background.
the couple think about all this?
We were laughing about it. They were cool about it. The
Did
groom,
they know? They didn't know?
No.
Wow.
They're from like Northern California.
Yeah.
And they're getting married down here, so they were down here doing wedding stuff and happened to do their photos also here.
And you took them to a nude beach.
I took them to a nude beach accidentally.
That's a great story, man.
But the photos turned out good, and I was worried about like being down there with the camera. Like, are people gonna think I'm like a creeper? Am I gonna get like yelled at? Like, I feel weird being down here with this camera.
Yeah.
But there were other photographers there with there were models who were
Also nude?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like not totally, but yeah. Okay, well, if that dude's like taking a picture, like I think I'm fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we still kind of like stayed away from everybody and like stuck to the cliffs and like some.
Was the couple worried you were about to like ask them to go?
We were joking because they had their change of outfit.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh well, this is a perfect place to do it." But they still
hilarious.
covered up and changed it.
Of course. Wow.
But yeah, dude, that was funny to me.
That's a good experience.
But yeah, I think the couple that I brought down, the guy was like, yeah, I've been to like Italy before. I've never been down here before to like nude beaches. Like, okay, so you've been to one before, so you're not going to hate me entirely for bringing me down here. So, but yeah, I'd imagine if I had like a more like conservative or like uptight couple, that probably wouldn't have gone as well.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it was them.
It's so good.
Oh.
You want to grab a beer real quick?
Yeah.
I need one now. Let's see. Yeah. So good thing Maria brought that up while we were grabbing some beers. Maria was asking you about Eric. You're switching back, you traitor.
Well, see, I'm not really sure if it's me being a traitor on Sony's end. Maybe it's more so me being a traitor on Canon's end.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You were a traitor on Nikon's end too. So
true.
you're just turning your back on everybody. What's next, dude? You're gonna go to Panasonic and just leave us all behind?
No.
No. Dude, I went to a camera store. I won't say which one because everybody knows this store. And I met the owner, and everybody knows this owner too. But he was selling me hard on the Panasonic. I don't even remember the name of the system, but it was the equivalent to the Fuji XT2 system at the time. Right? Same thing, but Panasonic's. And they must have I think just in general, that camera store was trying to like hustle Panasonic hard at the time, or else he would have been so pushy. He brought out every lens, every like two of the cameras, and was like, it has this, it has that. I was like, cool, man. I'm not switching to. No, you really got to look at it though. You can do this, and I remember asking about like the low light, and there was a bit of a no, you know what it does pretty. Actually, you'd be surprised how well it does. Like man, I don't know.
I don't want to be surprised.
I don't want to be surprised. But you're planning on making the switch back?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. It seems like I am.
Yeah. Seems like you are.
Yeah. So, okay. Whenever I upgrade cameras, so yeah, you're right in the sense I started on Nikon, had a Nikon D300, shot with that with forever. And I would have stuck with the Nikon, but at the time I didn't have anything. I wanted a full frame camera that shot video also. And at the time, I don't know, like 2010 maybe, I'm not sure. Nikon had the D700, which is a full frame camera, great camera, but did not do video. And Canon had the 5D Mark II that had come out, I think, a few years before, possibly, that had the full frame and the video. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just get that camera because I want to pursue this whole photography thing, and I might as well have like a camera. I want to step up, you know. I don't want to, like, if I'm going to spend the money on a new camera, I don't want to buy something that's not as good as what like the best camera I can afford is. So comparing like this D700 and the 5D Mark II, I think they're, I don't know, generally within the price range of each other. I imagine the Canon was more expensive, but I got video with that camera, so I figured I'll just get that one. And I think it had been out a couple of years, so I can get a used one off eBay or something like that. Yeah. So ended up doing that, and sold all my Nikon gear, like the D300, I think a 50-1.4, 80-200 2.8, and some other lenses. Sold everything and barely had enough money to buy the 5D and a used first gen 24-70, and that was my Canon setup.
That was it.
Yeah. So upgraded to a new system because my current system didn't have anything with what I wanted. So that at the time,
it's pretty impressive. You were willing to give all that up just for a body and a lens. Mm-hmm. That's got to be a tough decision.
Yeah. So I had that, and
now going back to Canon, you're only going to be able to afford maybe a body.
Well, here's the thing. So then I stuck with Canon, got the Mark II up to the Mark III. Then finally, I have two Mark IIIs, and my main Mark III was at, like, I just wanted to check the shutter count on it one time. This is a long time ago, a few years ago, and it was at 375, I think. Oh my God. Which I think it's rated for 250.
Hadn't you already switched the motor though?
So that was I checked it, the shutter count on it, and it was like 375, which is way more than what it's allotted for. I'm like, this seems unsafe, being I'm a professional photographer and I need my camera to work.
Crap out on you.
So I took it to Canon and got a new shutter, and it was like $600. So I had a new shutter, old camera, but it was still good.
Yeah.
Then finally shot through that a bunch, and now I think now it's back up to like 275 or something like that. And so I was like, well, I'd like to upgrade my camera. The 5D4 is a little pricey, and
it just dropped in price though.
Well, this is like when the A7 III came. I've been eyeing Sony, but
we're still talking your switch to Sony.
Yeah. I'm leading up to why I'm a trader.
I'm trying to get to the point. Why are you? Just kidding.
Anyways, Sony had dual card slots, eye autofocus, which that was a big sell for me, and the buffer time on the 5D3. I'm sure you know if you
horrendous.
Terrible. Hated it. And so I rented the A7 III, and I think I was sold when I first got it. Put the dual cards in and held the shutter down on like high plus or high plus the shutter speed, or the I'm blanking how fast 12 frames a second.
Yeah, you sent me a video of it too.
Yeah,
and you could do it nonstop.
And I got up to like, I don't know, I forget what it was, like a 83 or 73 or something like that. Way more than I would ever need for the buffer to be. And I was like, well, that's crazy. That alone, because there's shots where the first kiss, where I'm trying to like get their first kiss, and then like if people are like throwing confetti and then they're smiling and walking down, like I need those bursts to be like consistent. Though like those all happen fast.
Yeah.
And the 5D3 would like, and you know that whole thing.
I think you gave it a little extra. It's way less than that. It's like,
yeah, and then come on,
and then nothing.
Yeah. So
you have to literally watch the numbers count down from 10.
Mm-hmm. So that was a huge sell for me, and it wasn't as expensive as the 5D4. And I can get the Metabones Mark IV adapter, which at the time they're like, "Well, this is almost as good as native Sony."
Still not as expensive, but go on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So got that, and I've still this whole time I've been shooting my other 5D3 as my second, but got the Sony A7 III and 50-1.4, the Sigma 50. Or no, sorry, about the Metabones, and shot adapted for a bit, and thought, I should get a Sony lens, because it wasn't as good as I hoped. And yada yada yada.
The actual lenses worked out for you. You like the Sigma lenses.
Native lenses are much better. But little things kind of stuck out here and there when I was shooting it. So I don't know, we've probably shot 30 to 40 weddings with it, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more. I don't know.
Oh, that's it? Oh, I guess you've only had it for like a year, huh?
Yeah, a little over a year, I
That's
think.
true. Okay.
So here and there, like when I rented it,
I just assume you shot 30 weddings since last week. So.
Sure. So when I rented it, I had my rented the Metabones with it, and I had my Sigma 35, my Canon Sigma 35 on it, and it like went out to like a pumpkin patch and shot like the wife and the kids and did all that those photos, and it locked up on me like twice to where like it froze. I had to take the battery out and put it back in, and I thought, oh, maybe it's just this camera, or maybe it's just this the converter, something. I kind of brushed it aside. I thought, oh, it'll be fine. And went ahead and still got it, even though with that like weird like issue that it had. And then there've been times.
Did you get it used or was it?
Well, this one was just when I rented it. So
it was a rental,
used by somebody else, but I was just borrowing it for the weekend, you know. So I got like the Metabones Mark IV and the Sony or Mark V, I think actually, and didn't really have any issues for a while. But then here and there, I'd get like my LCD screen would freeze to where like the last picture I took would show up, but the menu was gone and I couldn't press anything. The buttons wouldn't work. And the only way I could get it to do anything was take the battery out and put it back in. And then that last shot would be gone, I think. And the same thing, you know, as you're talking with the Sonys, you have to wait for it to start up and do its thing again. And run through its motions.
I never said anything bad about Sony.
So that specifically that's happened to me a few times during weddings, but it's always been a not crucial time. And then probably like a month and a half ago, we were shooting a first look, and it did it. And I was like, okay, Sony, right now you can do this right now. So thankfully, my wife was still there shooting, and her camera has been fine.
Yeah.
So that was annoying to deal with at a crucial time like that.
Did you have one Sony or two?
Two.
Okay.
I have one, and my wife has one.
That's right. Yes.
So I've been always afraid of that happening at like a really crucial spot, or like a first kiss, or like something like that.
You've had enough weird things happen. Where, like this could happen during like a crucial moment or something.
Yeah. So that with the screen freezing, there's been times where I'm not sure if I'm blaming my SD card or not, but I'll be shooting and then it'll pop up and say like, oh, this card can't be read. Do you want to reformat or not reformat? Do you want to like recover the images, something like that? I'm
curious about that. Do you ever put that same card in your Canon camera at all?
No. So the first time it happened to me, because at first I had taken all my Canon cards and formatted them all in the Sony, or format them on the Canon, then format them in the Sony. Yeah. And just use those exclusively with the Sony. Yeah. And then that happened for the first time during a family shoot. And it was like a big, like a full day, like multiple, like a family day session, or whatever it's called, like a bunch of families in one day. Yeah. So I had brought like an extra camera and extra memory cards just in case something crazy happened. I'm glad I did, because this happened. And just put everything, new cards, use the other camera the rest of the day. And the same thing to where like the last few photos weren't there, but you
had taken enough of that family.
And then shot on a new card. And so then I spent the money and got all new cards for the Sony and used them, and it happened 3 or 4 times in the past year, which isn't a lot, I admit, but it's enough to where like if this were to happen during a crucial,
I feel like that's enough, because you know we've been fortunate where I've had one card issue, and it was a long time ago, and it was a Kingston card that I just happened to have, you know what I mean? And I never went and bought one of those ever again. Yeah. But when I was shooting, when I got all SD cards, I still had my Canon, I had a 5D3 still, and I would use the SD cards between cameras. And I want to say the camera did something. I can't remember what happened, but the camera did say something weird. I think it was on the Canon or something. And the first thing I thought of was like, is this a memory card thing, you know? So from then on, I was like, you know, if I'm going to be shooting mainly Sony, which I do, I have 2 Sony bodies. I was like, I'm never going to put any of these SD cards in a Canon ever again. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know if I need to buy a couple more cards, just like reserves in case I ever end up with another body. Because at my work we use Canon, and there's been times where like I'm almost needing another card or something like that, you know. But my work has their own card, so. But I don't know. Do you think it was a card issue?
Yeah, I can't prove it. So it's happened, like I said, like 3 or 4 times, and every time it's always been slot 1. So I'll take that card out and like mark it with like Sharpie or something, just so I know like this card might be funky. And it's happened to like different cards. It's hasn't been the same card yet. And so there's that. So there's the card issue. There's the locking up weird freezing issue, which I'm not sure if that's related
to the Tamron issue.
Yeah, and then focusing, which specifically it hasn't really happened on my body too much, but I'm using pretty much exclusively the Sigma 35-1.2, and occasionally the Sigma 50-1.4. But my wife at the time was using the Tamron 28-75, I think it was, and that one. During the day, like during daylight and during like setup and like getting ready photos, like it was great. It was sharp. It was awesome. But specifically with the flash attached to the camera during like speeches or during a first dance or during like anything where a flash is attached to the camera, it would just like back focus by a couple of feet, and it'd be like enough to where the photo wasn't deliverable. It was just too out of focus. And like my wife gave me her camera with the lens on it and said it's not focusing. So I go to it and, make sure it's not user error. And sure enough, like everything, like I was trying to take the same photos, and they're just like out of focus. I changed like to spot focus. I was on continuous, then changed it to spot, and the same thing happened. Then I swapped to a different lens, and I think it was improved a little bit, but not.
You think the camera still sums up with the camera though?
Maybe, yeah.
Because you got the 24-70, and you're still having the same issue.
Yeah, I think still like it's not as much, but and I at the same time I don't think anything's wrong with the camera. I think I think we're just so used to like the DSLR, like it like being pretty, like with the 5D3, like I was happy with that camera with its focusing abilities. I was focused and locked on.
Yeah, but I never look at the back of my Sonys and go, oh, that's kind of out of focus, but it's okay. Do you know what I mean? Like they're always on point, so that's got to be an issue. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Does the other camera do the same thing?
No. Well, our setups are different for like her like.
Yeah.
So for the like first dance photos, I'll have multiple flashes set up with my camera, and so like my settings are gonna be different from hers.
But you haven't tried setting up your camera as her camera, like to see if it's doing the same thing.
Yeah, no, I haven't tried the Tamron yet, because it's always, I never think about like looking into it. I never want like in the middle of a wedding.
Yeah, you're
like,
busy shooting a wedding. Yeah.
So that being said, there's been a bunch of like smaller things that have happened, which I mean like you like.
Well, and then the big thing is Canon's been coming out with these beautiful mirrorless cameras.
Yeah.
And their new lens technology, and you've been staring at that while having all these minor issues with your Sony cameras.
Yeah.
You're ready to just be a trader.
Yeah. So hey, so yeah. So we talk about like the R6 specifically. So I'm looking more into that, and I like that because if it's finally Canon has a mirrorless that's dual cards, which I wanted, that has the eye autofocus.
Took them long enough, right?
Right. Yeah. And has the eye autofocus, which I wanted that. I use that more than I thought I would, and the
eye focus is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It just there's such a sense of what is that? Of just like knowing that you're focused on the eye. Like come on, like that's like that's the goal, right? And a lot of times when I did portrait photos on the Canon, even though you focus on the eye, you'd go back and it was like shooting 1.4, you'd be focused on the nose, and it's not a big deal if you zoom out or whatever, but like you knew.
Yeah.
And with the Sony, it's nice knowing that every time you know, even when you're running and gunning, you're focused on the eye for the most part.
Yeah. So I appreciate like Sony. Like Sony's a great camera. The A7 III is a great camera, and I shoot the 35-1.2 like I'd say 95% of the day. And like shooting like photos of like the bride or like someone individual, I could put it on 1.2 and get the eyes locked on.
Yeah.
And that's like awesome. Which, yeah. So it's a great camera. I mean, it's just me specifically like this. I've had these issues, which I don't think that everyone with the A7 III is going to have these issues. It just happens to be my unique situation, I guess. But I still have all of my original Canon lenses with the exception of a 51.2. But I have like my 24-70 and 81.2 and 35-1.4, and like that's really all I need. Like the 50 I didn't use that much, honestly. So I'm like, oh, I could sell all my Sony stuff and get 2 5 or R6 bodies, and it's almost like we never left. Like I'd have to spend a little more money because these lenses that I paid for the Sony bodies and stuff, but it wouldn't be that bad in comparison to like starting from scratch. You know, like I still have the majority of my Canon lenses.
Yeah.
So
tell me about it.
So yeah, it wouldn't be that hard of a transition from like switching from like Nikon to Canon to where I have no Nikon Canon glass and have to buy all new lenses, which I already have.
And you're for sure going for the R6.
Yeah.
No R5?
No, I don't need that many megapixels, that big of a file size.
That's what I tell myself when I look at the A9.
Dude,
but I still want it so bad.
Yeah. That's why I was like set on the A9 for a while until the Canon, the R6 came out, which I don't know. I've had like 3 Mark IIs and 2 Mark IIs, and all of them have been pretty good. Like I think my Mark III had a couple issues, but there's only one issue, and when I got the shutter replaced, the Canon rep said, oh, you're getting like I forget what it was, like error 01 or something like that. That's because your shutter was high, so the new shutter should fix that, and haven't had any issues, like weird issues with the Canons. So I'm hoping that Canon can hold true on that aspect to it and not have any more issues.
When are you gonna make the switch?
I don't know. Gotta see like what the availability is like.
Everybody wants to know when you're gonna sell your stuff. Well, they're probably not gonna want to buy it now that I think about it.
It's all broken and it sucks.
When are you gonna make the switch, man?
Yeah, so for sure, like not right away. I'm not gonna pre-order or anything because I don't have the money to buy it outright. I have to sell all my gear first, all my Sony gear at least.
Well, all your weddings are postponed, so
they're all canceled. Honestly, yeah, it's true. So I think for sure, I'm hoping this year though, because we can get that tax write-off.
Yeah.
We'll see. Because I think it comes out in August, and I'd imagine it'll sell out quick right as it's released. So I have to wait for the next batch to come out, which I don't know if it's going to be 2020, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping by like December or so.
You start thinking about actually making the.
Yeah, I'll see what our weddings are like, and if I can afford like not having a camera while waiting for a new camera, if that all works out. So.
Well, I do got to say, man, it's been really great being friends up until this point, and I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't gonna miss you and all our talks. And not just kidding.
Hey, I have a question though. So let's say hypothetically you could just take all of your Sony gear and just trade it on over and get the equivalent Canon gear. Like you can get an R6 or R5 if you want. Would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I'm a trader too. Cool. Dude, honestly, I've been looking at those cameras and everything they're doing. Obviously, when the R came out, I thought it was really nice. The one SD card was definitely a no for me. You know, for weddings, I know there's photographers that are like, oh, I'm fine with just, potentially losing all my photos.
Sure.
But that's just not how we work. I like having those safety measures put into place.
Yeah.
They're important to me, in protecting my clients like that. So that was a no-go. But when I was reading about, what Canon's doing with their lenses and, the new technology, like it sounds really cool. I would definitely, if I had the money, I would love to get one and use it. Why not? You know what I mean? I wish I was the type of person that could just get every new camera that came out and play around. I should have been a camera YouTuber or something. Yeah. So I just had them all send you a camera. Yeah, they all just send me all their cameras.
Dude, living the dream.
Yeah. You can only dream. But yeah, no, I would definitely make the switch if I could, especially with the R6 sounds cool, man. I do have to say that I haven't shot video on any of the new cameras. I'm sure it's really good. But one of the major reasons that I switched over to Sony was because I liked what Sony offered on the A7 III when it came to photo and video simultaneously. You know, we started shooting more wedding films and stuff, and I loved what I myself was capable of with Sony's video quality and look. You know what I mean? I've used some of the presets on Canon to make to be able to play around with like color correction on the video more, but I don't know. I still shoot Canon for work, and so I do both video with Sony and Canon, and I still just prefer my Sony gear when it comes to video. So I'm staying Sony for now. Hey, you know,
rock on, man.
But I don't know, when you get your R6, I'm gonna have to play around with it and see where we're at, and see if Maria will let me switch over. Yeah, before we started recording again, Maria asked you what did Ashley think? What did Ashley think about you switching?
She was very much against it, specifically because we had just bought. I mean, it's been like a little over a year that we've had the Sonys, and spent all that money on it.
Well, she didn't hear, hey, I'm thinking about switching over to Canon. It was more like, hey, I'm thinking of dumping $4,000 worth of monies and spending it again. She wasn't for it.
No, I think so. I've been trying to like drop hints at it, so like when it actually happens, she's like less angry, so it's not like totally out of the blue. So like when I heard of the R6 before it had been even announced, I heard that there was like a mirrorless that was dual cards and like 20-ish megapixels and yada yada yada. And I thought, okay, well that sounds like a camera I might be interested in. And whenever she complained about like the autofocus issue, or I had my issues with the cards or the locking up stuff, I was like, Canon's coming out with the mirrorless camera at some point. I don't know when, but maybe we should switch back. She's like, that's so stupid. We just spent the money on this. You're so dumb. And which is true. All that's true.
It is. You're pretty dumb, man.
But for sure. But I think her consistently having the issue, and then one of a wedding we shot a few weeks ago, it had the same card issue to where it said like, oh, there's an error reading this card or something like that. And I was like up with a couple, like up away from my bag where I didn't have my extra cards on me. So I had to like call Ashley and like, hey, could you bring your camera up here real fast? And like that awkward, like, this is dumb. Like I need to use this camera real fast. I don't have any cards on me because my camera should be working, but it's not. So I think
the last thing you want in any, especially a wedding, is like, oh, give me a second. I cannot shoot at the moment. Like, you don't want any of those moments.
So that was like, I mean, the couple didn't care, but it was kind of like embarrassing for me, and like seemed like unprofessional on my end. Like, so trying to alleviate moments like that to where, I mean, it's happened before, but it's never like in front of a client where like they're waiting on me. It's always been like during candid photos or during a reception and all that. And actually, I think during the family photos, I had to switch cameras then, the first time it happened. But most of the time it's something where I can just like easily just like grab a card from my bag that's a few feet away or something like this, where this point I was, far away from my bag and I had to like have Ashley bring her camera up real fast. So that was dumb. But yeah.
And I'm curious if the new Canon mirrorless is capable of this. You and I were also talking before we started recording how I love shooting with Sony. Everything's good, but my very few gripes with Sony is that like there's a bit of lag for certain situations. So like when I was shooting with the 5D3s, if something was happening like in the moment and my camera was on my waist, I could literally like pick it up and already be shooting before I get up to the moment and just not miss anything. And with the Sony, there's a bit of lag because when the screen's on and the screen's off, like the screensaver or whatever, when you bring it up and you press a button down, there's like a 1 to 2 second lag, and it's enough lag to miss a moment that you needed to like shoot right away. And that's honestly one of the only issues that I have with Sony. And I'm curious if the new Canon mirrorless, like you're able to do that.
I have an answer for you.
Oh, so you can. You can. I'm switching then.
I was looking up most of the YouTube videos right now are all the R5 because that's coming out soon. So all the influencers are getting the R5 to show off and stuff. and this person was comparing the R5 to the R and turned them on both at the same time, and the R took like, I don't know, like less than a second, and the R5 was even faster. It was like boom on, to where like the R was like boom on, like it hardly even a difference, to where it's Sony, it's like boom on. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like a long time, but when it comes to wedding photography, you know, those situations, they are like in the moment, like they're super fast. Yeah, and I've certainly missed shots because of that.
Dang. Okay. So, well, then that would be one thing I'd be looking at. Yeah. And the only other problem is really just user error. But when I switched over to Sony, actually from your advice, I started shooting on continuous autofocus, and with the focus area being on the widest. So I let the computer do whatever it wants to choose what I'm photographing, and I would say that it's 90% good. It's when you're with the couple, when you're in a crowd with the couple, I would say it's still 90% good. And it'd probably be even better if I took that step further. Do you use a priority face focus?
No, I'll just use like autofocus and like the single spot, and I'll just move my focus point around.
I imagine I'm gonna have to test that out too, but I imagine, you know, the priority face focus, you can set priority to when you get to your wedding, you can take a picture of the bride and make her face priority. So then when you're in the crowd, it's always looking for her. Yeah. So I imagine that would make it a lot faster. I haven't tried that yet, but without that, I would say it's at 90% good. I'm always getting focus on the bride and groom or the subject in front of me when I need it. But there are situations where, you know, I'm trying to do something different, maybe something creative, or just, you know, my composition is different and I need the focus over here. So I have to switch over to single shot, and then I have to switch my focus over to like center, or, you know, the flexible center. Yeah. And that does not take a long time, but it's long enough to put the camera down, look at it, and tell my couple, like, give me 1 second here. I'm just making this switch almost there. Oh, nope, I accidentally pressed it off. I got to go back, you know? So it's long enough where it feels embarrassed. Like you said, it's embarrassing to have to like do that. Yeah. So my project right now is to figure out how to set, you know, like a magic button on my camera to just automatically switch from one to the other. Yeah. So... Okay, before we go, got a couple questions I asked on the Facebook group. What would you want to ask someone who's switching back to Canon now that the R6 and R5 are coming out? Which, you know, now they're going to know that was... Well, they're going to know it was about you because you commented on that post. But let's see. We got some questions on here. Michael Orlando asks, are you also buying a portable fan for video?
If I do video enough and it's hot outside, I'll get a fan that attaches to my hat and like goes in my face. Yeah. But until then, I don't do video.
You could also, you know what you could also do is you can get a Camelback and fill it with water and freeze it and put that in your camera backpack.
It's not a bad idea.
So it keeps your cameras cool.
Nice.
And I think specifically referencing the R5 has been having overheating issues. Yeah. So I think you're safe, right, with the R6?
I think so. And yeah, I don't do video enough, and if I do video, it's not 4K, and it's not like left on for a long time. So I'm just doing more photography stuff.
I think you'll be all right. Hey. Stephen Van Elk asks, heard the ISO in the R5 at 102,000 produces an image that's just as good as the 5D Mark IV at 6400, which is what I consider to be the highest you can push ISO in the 5D Mark IV and still get a good image. Is that a factor in the switch, and how does that compare to your Sony ponies? Oh my gosh, Steve.
Yeah, I think anytime I can get like push the ISO as high as I can get. I think on the Sonys I've gone like 3200, and it being okay. I might have pushed it to 64, but not really that often. And that's under like where I'm kind of more like experimenting. Like, this photo doesn't matter as much, so I'm gonna push the ISO on this to where things like speeches or first dances or anything like that, I'm gonna stick to what I know the camera can do and create a good image. Yeah. but for like dancing photos or things that I can get a lot of.
Yeah.
I've pushed it to like 64, and I think I've delivered some, but the majority I've done like 32. But yeah, I mean, anytime, like I was looking today, I sent you like photos of Jeremy Cowart, who he's like a commercial photographer, and he's like a big like Canon ambassador.
Yeah.
So he's a little biased, but still like showing like images from his R5. And it was like ISO 4000, and it looks like could be like ISO 100
It's
essentially.
just clean, right?
And like nighttime dark and all that, and it was
Yeah.
still like really good. So I think like that alone like wasn't the reason, but like little things like that to where like the processor or I think the processor or the shutter, something from the is the same from the 1DX Mark III, I think it is. Yeah, just like the quality of like its images, little things here and there that
I guess it raises
add up.
the comfort level of you having that camera
Mhm.
and knowing that you're able to go a little bit higher and be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, knowing that you're going to be able to deliver those photos.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, a bunch of little things like that, and like knowing I think that Canon's putting like higher quality stuff in the camera,
Yeah.
like the sensor and things like that, to where I feel like Sony, they might have like, I don't know if they cut some corners or not, but they have like, some people have had shutter issues also, which I've talked to you about, which I didn't bring up before. That's in the back of my mind too.
All
the
issues
shutter
I
failing.
haven't had at all.
Yeah, so
But don't ask me because I deliver photos at ISO over 8,000. But that's for another episode of the podcast. I got another question here. Brian Michael Keegan Hudson, he asks, from a business perspective, can you justify the cost of switching based on the increased capabilities and thus extra value you will provide clients?
Yeah, I think again, like specifically for me, because I have all my original Canon glass with the exception of the 51.2, the transfer back over is pretty, for the most part, pretty seamless, to where I have everything I started with before I left. For the most part, I have
Yeah.
all my same flashes and all that, and like the 50, which I didn't really use that often to begin with. So I think I'm hoping that after I sell all my Sony gear, I'm not spending much more of my money extra on the bodies, and still being able to like come back to where I left off from Canon, which isn't to say like if someone else were to switch and has, not pointing anybody out, but they have like entirely Sony gear, you know, that's a little more money they have to put forward to buy all like the new like lenses and bodies, and especially like the RF lenses are like dumb expensive.
Yeah.
So I think for me specifically, because I have the lenses already, like I can justify it. Having a camera that hopefully won't like freak out on me and create errors during crucial spots in the wedding day and things like that. It's worth it for me to upgrade a little bit to something that hopefully should be more, I don't know, reliable. Hopefully
Yeah.
that's the case. Yeah.
But I don't think you really worry about your clients too much in that aspect, right? Because they don't know what you're shooting with or any of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, their mind, I just have a camera and I'm shooting with it. And they
Do you have any clients ask you what
Yeah.
cameras you're shooting
Mhm.
with? Yeah?
Yeah, here and there.
That's always cute, huh?
Yeah. Like, oh. Mhm.
And then you give them a straight answer, like the full name of your camera, and they're like, oh, good. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, sorry, yes, man.
But besides that, I haven't had any bad experiences with Sony. It's
Mhm.
really, you know, it's unfortunate that you've had a little bit of these issues. I know you kind of downplay it. You're like, these are kind of issues. They're not a big deal, but they're potentially a big deal, especially if they stress you out enough
Yeah.
where you're trying to do business, you're trying to shoot a wedding, you're trying to not have any issues. At least with your cameras, you know, and focus on, you know, you being able to do your job good and all that stuff. I think it's enough for you to. I think it's a smart move that you're gonna go over and go to Canon and, you know, test out their technology.
Yeah, unless they suck too, we'll see.
Well, you can always come back or give another camera a try. You know.
Well, at this point, I have to sell all my Sony gear, so there's no going back on that. So really roll the dice.
Tell us, Eric. After Canon, where are you gonna go next?
I don't know. I think
back to film.
I don't know, maybe Koa or I'll have to get a Hasselblad.
Oh, whoa! Okay.
I'll sell my everything I own.
I don't think I'll be able to afford you back on this podcast when you start shooting Hasselblad. No, man, that's really great. I'm excited to use your camera for you to switch over to your Canon cameras. No, man, that's awesome. I can't wait to see how those work out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, going back, I mean, I still like Sony is a great camera, and I'd say majority of people like it's a great camera and it works out for everyone. And just whatever reason, me specifically, that just hasn't been as great as I hoped.
But I'm excited to see what you say about Canon because you know I always go to you for like you're like my gear review person because even when you got Sony before I got my Sony camera and you were sending me very extensive video recordings of tests you were doing in your backyard.
Watch this.
Like you got a flash and you're like, when I do this with the flash at this setting, it does it. And you're just sending me all these pictures and I'm like, all right, so now I know which flash I'm gonna get when I switch over, you know? So I do appreciate that about you. You're really good at figuring out what your cameras are capable of and how far you can take them. So
I try.
It's gonna be cool to see what you do with this with the R6.
Oh,
yeah. Nice, man. Well, I look forward to having you back on, hopefully before you switch over. Yeah. And then again when you do switch over, so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So
sounds good.
Thanks for being on, man.
Thanks, man.
This was fun. Woo. All right. And that's it, guys. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Wedding Photo Podcast. Remember, if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at Wedding Photo Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at DelToroPhoto. And you can go join our Facebook group where we have an ever-growing community of photographers and vendors. And you can ask questions on there about any topic. And you can ask questions on there if you want them brought up on the podcast as well. So go check them out. Remember, we are sponsored by Publisher by Narrative. It's a desktop app used to create blogs more efficiently and faster. You can try them out for free, and if you decide to purchase them, you can get 15% off using code DelToroPhoto. Check all that out in the affiliate link below. But that's it for this time, for this episode. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one.